Well, I just came out here and I saw this. Now this looks suspiciously like a roller, and I guess that when I wasn't looking, a roller got delivered here. So have a look. Oh, look at that mess. Oh, let's follow the trail of the roller. I don't mean a roller car. Well, I hope they're all right. Well, that roller does flatten things a bit, doesn't it? That obviously hasn't had a roller on it. That piece of grass there, I spent nearly 20 years cutting with a mower. It was a lovely piece of grass. Yeah, not now. Hi. Yeah. Well, there's the roller. It's a nice looking machine. Feels solid. Feels very solid. Tom's having a great time now driving the dumper. So this is going to be a new entrance to our property when we build this new house, which hopefully we're going to move into. We'll use this as our entrance, so we'll drive in and then through the woods to the house. That's the plan, but who knows. And down here, some of these trees, these sort of trees here, I think that's a walnut, they're staying. Obviously we pulled out all the scrub that was down there, so the road will end here where this line is, which is what they're doing now. Right, so this is the going to be the new entrance. So obviously the fence went across originally. We opened it up and then put this bit down here with it. And then at this point here, there'll be a gate. So this area here will be a sort of pull in before the gate. This stuff, they tell me, is this they're going to use it for, I don't know, packing down underneath here, I don't know. I'll leave it to them. Oh yeah, there is one other little sort of complication here. That power cable there, which runs across our land, and there's another one down there which runs across through the woods and joins us up at a post near our house. We're going to take all those power lines and have them put underground, so we've got no more overhead cables on our land. I'm not talking about these massive ones here with the pylons. I'm talking about these smaller ones here. Right, so what will happen is, because that's a public road there and we don't want to pay the cost of and all the problems with putting it underneath the ground, where that cable which comes here, we're going to have it drop down at this point over here. So there'll be a post here which the electricity people will put in, and then they'll run this cable will come to the post, down, go underground. We've put ducting in here under the road, and then from that point there we'll dig a trench all the way down to the other pole, and they'll run that cable. We'll dig a trench through the woods, and all these cables will then go eventually to the other side of our wood, up another pole, and disappear off in the normal way that they were. So we've just got rid of all the overhead cables on our land, if that makes sense. So the reason we put this ducting in is because we wanted to do this road now, and the electricity people are not ready to do the cable change. That's going to be another month or so, I think. Tom gets a variety of jobs here. He was driving an Aventine France the other day, and now he's driving a dumper. So at the moment we're putting the earth. We've used a lot of it for some other things, but we're putting the earth here now in one area that we can then recover it if we need it for anything. It's excellent soil, actually, top rate. We could actually sell it as topsoil, but I'm sure I'm going to need it for landscaping or something. This was a section of land here that they cleared last week. It had been all scrubland and sort of an area that I wanted to clear, because in the summer this would be quite a nice spot here, because it extends out into the middle of this other field here, the other side of the river. So we'll have a shady spot here. Actually, that's the sun's coming over that arc, so this will be shady here, and all this grass and everything will grow up again, and the river will just sort of meander around here. It'll be very nice. We'll level all this off. Down the far end over there, there's another area of land that I sort of repatriated that was fenced off as well. I'm going to make use of that. Actually, I'm going to take a lot of the fencing. I had a lot of fencing. There was stopping us going near the river, so there was land that we didn't really use. It's going to be hopefully quite pleasant here in the summer. This field doesn't belong to me, but so where that earth ends, roughly down there, there'll be a fence coming down here. So this is like a little finger of land that comes out into this field area where the river meanders. It's just really very pleasant here. Well, On a sunny day it will be. So you see this fence here, we're going to take a lot of this fencing down now. And then we can get at this land when we clear all this here. There's willows again. We'll be able to get at this land a bit easier. As soon as the spring comes, actually, there's loads of wildflowers here. All this grows up, all this vegetation here grows up to about this height, and it's full of flowers and various other things. But the fence is all coming apart now anyway. This little tree here actually was planted 20 years ago, and it got mown over. This is a trail here, and it got cut, and then we didn't cut one of the edges of the trail a bit. Anyway, we noticed it was starting to regrow, so we left it, and it's grown very slowly. But it's now, the last couple of years, it's starting to get some life in it, and I think maybe in the next year or two it'll start to look like a proper tree. So we've kept the area clear around it because we're trying to give it a chance in life. So down here by the river, this section, it's rather nice here again as well. The river meanders quite a bit around. It goes all around the boundary of my property. So, well, not all of it. I suppose 2/3 of my boundary is actually this river. Where it just follows around and around over there. Was a lot of wood that came off. There was a big tree, another willow that came down over there. This whole area down here where this new fencing is, this was all brambles last year. It was very difficult to even walk down here, so these same guys actually that were working here now, they cleared the whole lot, they pulled it all out. You can see a few of the roots actually that's starting to grow back actually. The trouble was that by pulling too much of that out, or everything out, we had to take half the bank away, which was not good. But we are going to have to try and do something with that, not let it get a hold again. And then we replaced all the fence, but sometimes if we had a lot of rain, that river will go even higher than it is now. And this is my cabin in the woods, which I never really finished. Got so far with it and never finished it. There was a wooden stove supposed to be going in here, and up here was a sort of mezzanine level where we're going to have a bed, a little sort of ladder to climb up, and a bed that you could sleep in here. So this is sort of man cave maybe, or kid's place. Kind of nice place to sit here with and read in the summer, your dog. The woods look pretty sparse at the moment, but in another couple of months they'll be full of greenery. It'll be a totally different place. Well, now they've decided rather to move some of this crushed concrete base for the road delivering it along the road here and shoving it down to the end. Well, we've got a driveway here now to get together. So they've put all this crushed concrete down to save a bit of the backfill of the crushed concrete, the actual really crushed stuff. So this is just some old crap stuff that they were actually old walls of kennel dividing walls on the outside runs. Right, well, all this work on the road here is really been focusing my attention, so I haven't done much with cars in the last 24 hours really. But then when this road is finished, we've got the top finish on it, which is going to be like pea shingle. I'll probably be driving my cars up and down it, so it'll be quite exciting, and park a few on here. That'll be quite good. That'll look very nice. Nice photo opportunities, perhaps. But it's certainly not the best of weather to be doing all this. It's the right time of year because all the vegetation's died down, and you can see where you are. But the mud, especially with the soil that we got here, but hopefully in a week or two this will all be finished, because we've got to make some changes because we're not going to be able to get out properly. So that van that's parked over there where the dogs go in the van from the dog run, we're going to have to put the van here and cut an opening through that shed so the dogs can come straight through from the shed into the van. In this area we're going to have to put some of this crushed concrete down as a temporary measure until we develop this area. Now this area here there will hopefully be a big house here. Quite a massive place, timber frame house we're hoping to build here. We've actually purchased it, but it'll probably be later this year before we actually get around to do anything. This little Diane here is quite an interesting little car, isn't it? Comes from Jersey. It's so muddy here that I can't even drive these cars now because they're just going to get covered in mud getting out of here. So until all this is dried out a bit and everything's cleared, I've really got to just leave them here. Anyway. Right, well, it's a little bit of a change here because I was about to go up to Bennicks, and I thought that this might be a good time to perhaps just give some background as to my relationship with Bennicks. Now, Bennicks as a garage has been going, I think, for 40 years. That's Bennicks, which is Ben and Nick. They're two different guys, really. I mean, one does the mechanical side, that's Ben, and the other guy does the bodywork side, that's Nick. When I first knew them, they had more people working there. I recall, I think there were
two guys working on the mechanical side, and even maybe possibly another guy helping Nick and Billy, but I can't remember quite. Anyway, that's a bit vague. Right. So to tell the story of my relationship with him, I've got to go back and tell you the story of a car that I bought. So this is going to go back to about 2002. I bought this Hudson Hornet. So when it arrived, it was I bought it off eBay, I think, and I paid, I don't know, about $4.5 for it. And the guy drove it down, and it was not an unknown car. It was known around the scene in England because there are not many Hornets about. And this car originally had been blue. It's been in the country for some years, I think. It used to be blue. There were quite a few pictures of it on the internet when it was navy blue. So I bought it, and I was very pleased with it. I mean, it looked really nice, but as you can see here, there's a dent in the bumper at the back. But it looked a nice car. It's an impressive thing. But the truth was, there was a hell of a lot of work needed doing on it. It was kind of in the state that my Daimler was in that I'd bought. But, I didn't pay too much for it, and they're very rare, and to find one in good condition was almost impossible. So if you wanted a Hornet, which I did, this was a good place to start. As you can see here, the inside is, well, doesn't look too bad there, but of course, when you go a bit further into it, the door look was shabby as hell. That was about the state of the rest of it. It was all there. The good thing about it was that all the trim was there, and all the chrome bits, everything was there really. But it was just, it wasn't a car that you could really be proud of. But I drove it around for a bit. Mechanically, it seemed to be not too bad, and I drove it about. Anyway, then I decided to. That's not me, by the way, doing that. A friend of mine. I decided to build it quickly. Build it a shelter. So as I did with basically all my cars, so built this shelter for it. And here we are again. This friend of mine who's working on. Actually, was working on another shelter that was next to it, which we were going to put in another car that I had. That I'd bought it just shortly afterward. Right, but what happened then? So I was out driving one day. As I say, mechanically the car was not too bad, and I drove it around quite a bit. And one day I was in a garage getting some petrol, and some guy came up to me and said, he was a car restorer and he loved Hornets, and would I be interested in maybe giving him the car to work on? Well, this guy, before I show you his picture, this guy turned out to be a real con man. I mean, professional con man. In fact, recently, he actually got 18 months in prison for doing a similar thing to what he did to me ultimately. So he was very, very persuasive, really nice guy. He talked the talk and even looked as if he walked the walk. But anyway, here's a picture of him. So he had a little garage, which was about 15 miles away from me. And this is him now. Adrian, his name is, and he took the car in, and he was going to totally restore it. So I kept going up every day. He wanted some money up front. Well, that didn't sound unreasonable, so I, gave him £500, and then it was another £500, and this sort of thing was going on over the next few months. And I kept going up every once a week, or maybe a couple of times a week, and to see how he was getting on. And he had this little garage. He doesn't seem to be doing too much, to be honest with you. And then what he did do seemed a bit ridiculous, and I wasn't too happy anyway. So you can see there, he's got the car. He's actually stripped some paint off the bit of the bonnet. I don't know quite why that was. And then eventually he started to do work like this. He started to, take it apart and really find out that it was full of rust. So there was a hell of a lot of work. I mean, really, the car needed stripping. But eventually, what happened was he went to a different premises. So he moved to a different premises, took the car with him, and at that point, he stripped the car completely. And this is a picture here, I think, of it Right, you can see that you've got the navy underneath where he's stripped paint off, and you've got the actual colour underneath. He's taken all the interior out, he's taken most of the trim off, and eventually he did strip it down to metal, bare metal. And all the bits from this car were in boxes. Well, what happened eventually was that he'd managed to suck out of me about £5,000, £5,000, and the car was going nowhere. But of course, the car was a shell, and all the bits of it were in boxes. But I decided that at that point that was enough was enough. I cut my losses here. This guy is a real crook, and as I say, it turned out that he was a crook, and he actually went to jail for doing the same thing with other people. He started to work on VW Beetle campers, actually. Had a couple of them, and took all the people's money and never did anything. So, he did it to a lot of people. Anyway, I then had the car on a trailer, and my friend and me went to pick it up. I had a car trailer at that time, and we had the car up on the trailer, and we had all the boxes in the back of my Jeep with all the bits, and at that point I didn't know what to do. I had two options really. Well, I don't know. I think I had one option, and that was to dump the car, scrap it with all the bits in it, and call it a day. But I'd had somebody had mentioned to me that there was a guy who could probably take the car on. I gave him a ring, and he said, yeah, he'd take it on, but on the basis he did repair work on cars. He was a big car repairer, had a big shop with maybe 4 or 5 guys working there. But he said he'd take the car in and work on it as a sideline. He wouldn't charge me too much, and he'd work in all the body work. So that sounded a good deal. I thought, well, I'll do that. So we took it up there, and here you can see loads of flat metal that they'd stacked up because they cut away most of the bottom of the car. Now this was about 2003 now, and this car actually stayed in this workshop for a couple of years, maybe 3 years if I recall, possibly longer. And it was a disaster really, and I just kind of forgot about it, 'cause I started buying more cars, and the Hudson just sort of, now and again I went up there, and then gradually they started to do more work on it. They basically cut away most of the bottom of the car and refabricated the work, the doors and everything else. Now there's a couple of little bits of video here, and they were taken at the time at the workshop. The quality isn't too good because the camera I had in those days was not that good.
Fields, whatever they're doing. But of course, it is a society in which babies are more accepted in the workplace. They've got a basic problem.
So eventually the Hudson got into primer, and they started to kind of put it together with the doors all been repaired. I mean, they did a very good job, because I would say that about 2/3 of everything below the window line, or halfway just below the that belt line in the middle there, everything, 2/3 of it was refabricated, and it was all curves and everything. So I was quite impressed. And then eventually they started to put paint on it. I'd chosen this yellow colour that I wanted to have. Actually, the colour that I chose, funnily enough, was quite popular at the time. I think it was a Fiat colour. It was I saw it on a couple of little Fiats that were running around. But it was similar to the sort of yellow that the Hudson actually had it in the day. So there were yellow Hudsons similar to this, in 1951. So here we are with the car, with paint going on it, and this is probably 3 years after I first took it up there, and probably getting on to 5 years since I first had it. But eventually they reached the point where they had done all the body work, but the car was still a shell. There was no interior because that was all in boxes, and all the chrome was in boxes and so on. And I decided that that was no good. I got to find somebody else to put it together. Now this is the point at which I met Bennicks. Somebody had come into my boarding kennel who had a classic car, and they said to me that they knew Bennicks, this garage, and they were a really good garage and everything else. So I decided to give him a ring. Rang him up, phone answers, it's Ben. I don't know him, of course. I said to him, you know, what sort of cars does he do? Blah, blah, blah. He said, anything. And I said, could you tackle an old 51 Hudson Hornet, American car? He said, yeah, no problem. I said, well, it's all in bits. Could you put it all together and finish the job off? Oh, yeah, no problem at all. Right, well, he sounded enthusiastic, so I decided then to get my friend and me, we got I had a Jeep Wagoneer, I had a trailer, so we decided then to go pick it up from where it was. And this is it in the yard. They pulled it out, because it's not running, of course. This guy here in the red overall at the back, he's the boss here, and he was the guy who actually organized this car being done. And I think they did a fair job. They didn't charge me that much money, to be honest with you, because he did it all in the spare time over a couple of years. Not ideal, but you know, anyway, the car's done. So we get it up on the trailer. There's my Jeep, and there's my friend there who's helping me, Carl, and we drive it away to take it to Bennicks. Right. Well, this is now this is a picture. These pictures I'm going to show you are not necessarily 100% in sequence, but this is the car, the Hudson, when it's up at Bennicks. This is in Ben's area. It's at the far end, and the car is at the beginning of where they're trying to sort out how they're going to put it together. So there's a guy called Jeff, an upholsterer, who was doing a lot of upholstery work. We did most of my cars, and if you look there on the left, you'll see that pink wing and a big bumper. That is my 55 Plymouth. Jeff was doing the upholstery for that, reupholstering that car, and I took that into Ben after the Hudson. So this Hudson's still being worked on, but not long after I brought the Hudson in, I brought this 55 Plymouth into Ben. So they now had two of my cars there at this point. But the Hudson was sort of taking a back seat because it was a bit more difficult. Anyway, this is the Hudson, so it's in Ben's place, and they're trying to figure out how to, where all the bits go, because everything was in boxes, and this is the reason why. That it was taking a long time. Now here is a picture here. It's interesting. This is Ben on the right there, and that's Nick next to him, having a look. This is when we were trying to figure out some problems I think we had with the brakes. Ben didn't have a beard then, if you'll notice. So that's the Hudson. That was taken in the tin shed place where Billy works a lot, or Nick works. Now we took all the chrome and we sent it to a place not too far from us, fairly locally, and they did a piss awful job on it, to be honest with you. Absolutely piss awful. So in the end I took it to a firm that I used to deal with many years ago, London Chrome Company, and there's a video in a minute coming up about it, and they did a fantastic job. So the chrome, which was all crap, I mean, at one point it was so bad I had thought about painting all the chrome work, just having it colored, self-colored, same color as the body, but there were so many holes in it. I mean, there were some pieces there were like 72 holes. I remember the guy told me he had to drill out and copper fill, and that cost me a real bomb to do that. Anyway, this is now the Hudson. That's in the shop where Billy works, so they were actually trying to get it back together now. This was quite a long process, and I think it was in there for about 6 months, maybe being done as one of the windows being put in. I had to get some new glass for the car. I got some glass actually from America for the front screen was new. Can't remember about the back. I think that back was the original back, but I got new. Of course, it was completely all new rubbers and everything. You know, the car was rewired and everything. There you can see the chrome's gone back in quite well. But there's a video coming up about the chrome. So, a lot of work involved here. There you can see the boot, but some of the new rubber sticking out. There's Nick there by the look of it. So, still working on the car. Of course, they were also working on the engine. Now, amongst all the spares that I had when I bought the car was an aluminium head, and I decided to have it fitted, even though I'd had advice not to bother because there was a lot of problems sealing it with the cast iron block and the alley head. But it was like a hot rod thing, and it was an original piece, so I decided to fit it. Those twin air filters hadn't been painted. I mean, that's the original, but the engine was cleaned up a bit, but we were working on the engine last, really. There's a shot here of Nick and one of his Bentleys he was working on. Then we started changing the paint a bit. I decided that I didn't like the car being yellow, all yellow, so I decided to paint the roof brown. And this is a picture of it with the brown roof, and there you are now with the brown roof. So I don't know where I got the colour from, but I thought it was a lot nicer. Another picture of it there. Anyway, this is a video now of taken when we were talking about the head, putting the head on. We were just opening it up. Ben was having a look at it, and there's Billy, you'll see, working on the car, and Nick, of course.
If it fits, I think it's the right one, isn't it? Yeah, undo it.
It was wrapped up like that, wasn't it?
Yeah. It's all been cleaned. I don't know, it's a brand new one.
It's brand new, you said, didn't you?
Oh, I think it is, yeah.
You don't know.
I don't know, but well, it looks it. It was like that when I
Yeah.
bought the car.
Yes, look.
Looks brand new.
Yeah.
Looks brand new.
It does, doesn't it? So did you get yourself a gasket set?
We got gaskets for that.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, look at
It's got the thing in there.
that. Yeah. Super power room.
What?
Power dome.
Power dome.
Power what?
Super
dome.
Super power dome.
Well, that's different to the one that's on there, isn't it? But is that the super duper head then?
I reckon it had been used before, because look at the
Oh.
corrosion around here.
Right.
Isn't it, Nick? Look.
Eh?
It has been used before, but look at this around here, look.
That's a power dome and all, Ben.
Yeah.
Maybe it's
That's a
just
power dome head. What's on it already?
Yeah. See that there, look.
Yeah.
That is cast iron, isn't it,
I
Nick?
don't know.
This is Ali, isn't it?
Yes, this is definitely alley. Definitely alley.
Come on, Doc.
What was wrong with the front? Oh,
No, we can't get it good enough fit on the. It feels like cast, Ben.
It does look, yeah, that's it. Ah.
You've got a hole in this side for the water outlet.
Yeah, got one here.
Yeah.
Then you've got another one the other side for sensor. 2 plugs there.
No plugs.
Where's the plugs? These are sealed up already. That's the right thing, isn't it?
To do with a gasket. gasket set.
All right. If I get a gasket, because it's not a major job, is it?
Well, I don't want a cylinder head on its own. I want a gasket set, really. And I'll put a new gasket on the side here as well.
Yeah, you haven't got a gasket set for that, have you?
I've got a gasket for it, but that's the old one.
Oh.
It'd be nice to put a new one on at this stage.
All right, so I need a head gasket and
Head gasket set.
right. What's this? The lighting you're trying to get done, or the bonnet catch?
Yeah. The bonnet thing. The bonnet don't fit the shape of the thing because they've repaired the front of the bonnet, haven't they?
Ah, yeah.
And I was hoping that was going to be full of filler in there so I could take some out. Knock it across them.
Oh wow.
Only
Yeah.
laid on.
Well, all right. That looks great. That looks better, doesn't it? No news about the manifold then?
No, I'll give them a ring later on. I've got the other.
So that ring.
This will go in.
Oh, that's the one you stripped off, is it?
I've got to polish it up a bit. Scratch quite a bit.
Well, you're going to... Oh, technical adjustment, all right.
Universal screwdriver.
Yeah. Oh, dear. I don't think I want to be on fly on the wall when you guys are here working on my car here. I'll tell you what, looks really nice.
Right, that one is flat now. Should knock across. Release like that. It should. And soft bits of modular as well. That's
Never been a better time to invest in PV solar panels from PJ Solar. Because the government scheme will pay you every year for 25 years, and the guaranteed return has never been higher.
Is that an improvement?
yeah, they need right.
Why not?
Getting on here,
Oh, yeah.
where
Yeah.
they've repaired
Well,
the
yeah,
bonnet.
but don't forget, they've changed the shape, haven't they,
Yeah.
probably? And don't forget, they probably did it without having that thing in
They
place.
did everything with
Yeah.
everything in place. I'll have to alter it.
Hammer it out?
Yeah.
What? No, you're not going to... You're going to hammer that bit? No, you're joking.
No, well, I'll have to paint that bit again. I ain't happy with it.
Well, I'm not happy with it, but I don't know whether the poor old car wants to be hammered.
If only you could see, see what we do.
I
when
know,
you're
I...
not.
You can try.
Yeah,
Worth a try.
yeah,
Try the try one.
yeah.
We'll leave it till we get the crown back. In case
Yeah.
I want to cut the strips. If you're going
Yeah.
to try for the window, second hand, we can get the crown strips and all.
Yeah. Well, it's starting to look a bit more complete. Now, this is a more advanced stage of putting the car together, and we've got all the interior back from Jeff the upholsterer, and so Nick is really putting it together, and the seats, everything was very complicated. There were, I think, 3 or 4 different types of fabric. I didn't use the original, obviously all the original interior was shot, and I didn't want to find the new stuff, so I went with the feel of it. All the fabric that I used was actually like a sort of an acrylic stuff, whatever, polyester, whatever you want to call it. It was washable, but it looked like it had the texture of cloth. So I wanted the cloth look, but I wanted it to be washable and durable. So I chose the material accordingly, and you can see here there's a picture of the door going back together again. And that is, as I say, it's none of that is actual cloth, but it looks it. We got the sun visor on there. There's a lovely sun visor. Now the sun visor, the thing was that a lot of the parts, not a lot, but a number of the parts which were on the car when it was sent up to this original guy, and he stripped it all down and put it in boxes. Then it went to the next place. Well, in between the 2 places, some bits were lost. Fortunately, there was nothing crucial. There were some bits from the centerpiece, for example, from that sun visor were missing, so we had to fabricate a few bits here and there to get the car going. And the car was a 6-volt. Oh, actually, this is a picture here of the seats when it was up at Jeff. I was looking at them. He was reupholstering them. This is actually before they went in the car. This was up at the upholsterers. There's some of the rear seats. Oh, well, they are the 3 rear seats. Seat backs. That's one of the armrests. Now, what happened then was, it's a bit out of sequence, but when I finally had problems with when I had problems with all the chrome, I finally sent it to the London Chroming Company, and I had them come back eventually, and this was a little video that I did when I got it back, so it's kind of a bit of a period piece now, really. Quality's not quite that good, but I thought I'd put it in. This is a momentous moment for me. This parcel just arrived by carrier, and inside were the last pieces of chrome for my Hudson Hornet that have been completed by a fantastic company called the London Chroming Company, who I should have sent all my chrome to in the first place, because they've done just a wonderful job. And in fact, they've chromed pieces here that a previous chromer told me couldn't be done. So now I'm going to take them up to where my Hudson is and see what they look like actually on the car. Fantastic.
Cool.
Right. So where?
We'll turn the other light on.
What did you do with the light?
Huh? The light, I've got that over there.
I got it.
The bench over there, the light. See it? Hold there.
Oh, that's nice. I didn't know that went there.
Yeah.
Ah, right. I'll let you put that to the body, then I can get a picture of.
Yeah, just. Where's it go? Oh, it goes at the back here. I've got one already. That bit goes on there.
Fantastic. Yeah, that looks good. Yeah. Oh, I see. Yeah. And that's the skirt that goes down the end. Fabulous.
Oh, that's lucky. Still got the screws in there, hold the light in.
Oh. So look, turn it around a minute. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna just... Right, how does that work then?
This bit beading here.
Ah, right. That's beautiful. What is that? Where did you get that?
Jeff made that.
He made that one up?
Yeah.
Beautiful, isn't it? That's lovely. And the handles work now?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll have to do it. Very smooth.
I'm running out of bits.
You're running out of bits, yeah. Yeah.
It looks good there, doesn't it?
They're really, really nice. That beading is really lovely. And you've got the this bit back in.
Yeah, that's all done.
So it's one completed door. Beautiful. So it's quite a complex door, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. A lot of stuff on it.
Yeah. Certainly compared to the other cars. So we've got the door.
Jeff made it all up.
Door complete. What was that? That was
That's
the...
that beading.
Oh, right. And they're for the other side, are they?
Now, well, I've got a rail of it.
Yeah. It's really nice. Nice little touch, that. There was beading there in the beginning, was there?
Yeah. Yeah. I know.
Right, well, you know, Nick actually had more cars back in those days of his own. I think he had about eight or 10 cars. And he quite liked American cars, actually, old Nick. And here he is working on a pickup truck. But he had a big Cadillac, and this was his big Cadillac, which he used to use for weddings and things. He had some, you know, big horns and that on the front. It was a really snazzy convertible. Bit garish, really. So another look here. There's another picture of him here with it. And actually, here's a bit of video I took at the time. This video was taken about 2009, I think. And it's Nick with his American Cadillac. He sold it about 3 years ago, I think. Right, so this is Nick. Back in those days, this was what? I suppose it's about 8-9 years ago, and it was at a period then when I had a lot of American cars, and Nick and Ben and Nick were working on them all the time. I had all sorts of Chryslers, mostly I had a 1950 Chrysler, 51 Hudson of course. I had a 52 Imperial, 53 Town and Country. I had a couple of Cadillacs, 53 Cadillac. I had a 55 Cadillac. I had what else? 55 Plymouth, 56 Chrysler St. Regis, so it went on, a number of others, and another Dodge. So Ben and Nick were working on them all the time, and basically I sort of had one or two cars up there all the time. There were a couple of cars they had up there of mine, which they were sort of ongoing projects they were restoring, and then I had the cars coming in and out, servicing and being remedial repairs, as it were. So that's a bit of the background of how I got involved with Bennicks and the car that really started off, which was the Hudson. And so we'll see. Now I think I'll pop up there and see how they are.
Right, well, it's a really nice day today. They say it's going to get really cold in the next few days, but it's a really lovely day today. It's very spring-like, and in some ways, I don't know, it makes me a bit even more sad coming up here, because it's sort of start of a new year, you start thinking, and then Bennicks is not going to be here. I'm getting pretty sad about it now. Anyway, let's have a look. Hello. I feel honoured to be in your presence these days.
Oh, why is that?
Ah.
Yeah, it do surprise me.
Oh, you got rid of the Audi then?
Audi, yes, that's done. And,
Got it back together all right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've done enough on them, yeah. Nick is in hospital at the moment.
Is he?
Yeah. Yes, I've done the brakes, just finished the brakes off this morning, and I've got the rear brakes done, all the fronts are done now. Change the oil, tune up the engine, and just check out the gearbox, and that's actually it.
Do you know, it's funny,
He's done all his work.
I looked at a video on that I did up here a couple of years ago, and that was here without the lights again on it. It was parked out the front. I didn't remember it. I thought it was new, but obviously they'd had it a little while.
It is, yeah, been a little while. But they've had it for a little while,
Yeah.
just had it back again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a smart old car, though.
Yeah.
Is it a Consort or something?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, Daimler Consort, yeah. All right, see you in a minute. Whoops, I've gone past the door. I'm walking out the end. Yeah. Working on it's coming on. Is this new a new car to this guy?
I don't really know, to
No.
be quite honest.
It's not been in here before, this one, has it?
No.
No, I thought, yeah. Because somebody I know just bought one of these. I don't think it's his though.
This bloke's on holiday at the moment.
Ah. You painting the roof as well? No. No? Oh. Isn't the roof going to be slightly different tone?
Probably.
I mean, that's quite a nice finish you got there.
Maybe you can buff it up.
Well, we'll have to give it a polish.
Yeah. This is quite an early one, I think, isn't it? It's not a single... No, it's not. The Cyclops one. They're a lovely car, these. There was one driving around the town today.
What, like this?
Well, the same one, but a bit slightly newer one.
What, this is Pope?
I think it might have been, yeah, I think it probably was his. The blue, the two-tone blue.
No,
Like...
I've got a black one.
Oh, is it black?
Yeah,
Well, who owns the blue one? There's a two-tone blue one around. It's been at one of the...
can't say.
You've been in here.
Is it?
Yeah, yeah.
What, one of these?
Yeah, it's two-tone blue. Lightish blue and darkish blue.
Oh, I know who you mean.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Is it Mr. Peck?
That's the guy, I think, yeah. So that car, I think that'll be sold in the auction. Yeah, it's poor old Nick's in hospital, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. For a couple of days, I think, Ben said. So, well, good for his daughter.
So how many days, you haven't got many days left here now?
Exactly, today, 5 weeks.
Oh, it's only 5 weeks.
Yeah, I finish on a Thursday before the Good Friday Easter.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be in Canada.
Yeah, I think you said you're going about
Yeah.
the 17th, I think.
I'll come back, I'll be back for the auction, I think. I'll come up.
That's on the 21st of April.
I want to buy myself a lift. Oh, you've got a hell of a lot of work here to sort this lot out. I mean, really.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, I don't know how you're going to do it.
Ain't finished people's cars yet.
No, I know. Well, that's why I don't bring any of my cars up here now. But those lifts, they've got to be taken apart, haven't they?
Yeah, by whoever buys it.
Oh, right, okay. Oh, so if I pop one, I've got to take it apart. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, the Rams.
I like that.
But Ben will be here to help and
Yeah,
cut the bolts off the fixings at the bottom.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
and regular.
Well, I'll be here for that, and I'll see how they go. I might buy one or
Do you
two.
know what those work? I know you say like 300.
Well, that's what I've been seeing, looking at. There seems to be, but then of course, if there's one going, say, in Manchester for like 300, that's no good because it's in Manchester, isn't it? So it's like all these things, those sort of things. It depends. It's worth more if you're around here,
Yeah.
and you want one and you're here. You're better off buying it rather than pick one up in Manchester or somewhere.
Yeah.
So I'll see how it goes. I might buy one. Anyway, I'll let you get on.
Righty-ho.
I'll see you later.
See you.
Yeah, thanks, Billy. All right.
We've got to get to that stage, haven't we?
Well, I'm gonna.
In my retirement as an old man,
Yeah, will you? Yeah. Then maybe you'll be doing other things like me.
hopefully.
I got to find other things to do. I ain't be coming up here anymore, will I?
Well, you can always come to mine.
Yeah. Well, I want you to do some work on my cars, do other
Well,
things. All right.
take it easy.
Yeah, I'll see you a bit later. Thanks, Ben. Cheers. Enjoy the sun. It's going to get cold. I'll be at the auction, by the way. Yeah. I'll see you later. Oh dear. I really am going to miss coming up here. The whole thing. Very sad.